I'm glad to see you here. And you single ladies look so pretty.
Yes.
You look really pretty.
Yes.
And you married couple, you look just as beautiful.
Amen.
You both together. So I'm glad to have you all here today, and I'm going to tell you, I'll be honest with you, I've been struggling. Well, I had a couple of dreams about this event, and they didn't want me to talk to you all, because what I learned since being in the kind of ministry I'm in, the dark side doesn't want you to know the truth. They want you to stay with the lie, because as long as you stay with the lie, then it can always keep you in that rut that you're in. And so I told Bishop, I was going through and I was reading articles on about single people and how single people felt, especially being in the house of God. And I tell you, there's some really sad stories out there. A lot of women are feeling the pressure of being single, not being able to get a date, not being able to meet a nice young man. You hear it from the woman's side, but you're not hearing the male side. Most of the time, women are the only ones that speak up about how they really feel about being single, and being a saint, being a Christian, and trying to find a mate. And so Bishop and I on our way here this morning, we were talking, and I said, well, you know, I noticed that all they talk about is partner, 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 partner. And so we had to look up the word partner. That's not what God told us to look for a man to look for. He didn't tell him to go look for a partner. So we looked it up, and it was like, it's dealing with sports. It's dealing with, I remember when I was in elementary school, we were doing square dancing, and they would tell you to grab hold of your partner. And so that's not a husband, that's not a wife. A partner is not a husband. It's not a wife. The Lord said that Bishop told you last night, a man will leave his mother and his father and cleave to his wife. Not cleave to a partner. It's to use that word is to diminish the whole thing about relationships.
Amen.
And so I said, I'm going to talk a little bit about singles, and then I'm going to hit a little bit on the married couples. Because it's important that before you get into that relationship to have a husband, you need to know what you're doing right in the sight of God as a single person. And our biggest issue, we're talking about barriers and bridges. The barriers are the things that you keep in your mind that block you from getting where you want to be in a relationship. And it kind of starts out when you're growing up in your home. For those of us that had our mother and father in the home, that is your example. You're going by what you saw in your home. And so what you do is you have a tendency to bring those things that you saw go on in your home with your mother and father into your relationship with you and your wife or your husband. And sometimes some of those habits are not good. It depends on what type of relationship your mother and father had. And you got to remember, Mom and Dad didn't let us see everything. We only saw some of the good side. You didn't know when Mama was in that room crying because Dad had done something. You didn't know when Daddy was mad because Mama had done something. So sometimes you didn't see that. But a lot of kids have seen the physical abuse, the verbal abuse, and that gets on the inside, and then when they get into their relationship, because it wasn't corrected when they saw it, they take it into their marriage, and now they become what they didn't like that their dad did to their mom, or their mom did to their dad, but they become the same kind of person, because the behavior was never corrected.
Never.
So I'm sitting and I was thinking, I said, Lord, and they was in my dreams, they was asking me, so what are you going to talk about? So what are you going to say? What? You want to tell them that? I was like, what the world? And I said, okay. So I said, okay, I have to shut it down. And I said, okay, I'm not going to talk to anybody about what I'm going to say because I know how the adversary works. Now, I was single too at a time in my life as well. And Bishop told you all last night, we both had been married before, so when I first got married, I was 24. But I was out of college, because I was like what Faith said about what do you do when you got this mindset that your parents and these women, especially, instill this in their daughters. Graduate from high school, go to college, get a degree, make something of yourself. Don't depend on a man. And so now you got that in your mind, and so every time if you met a guy, you don't want to depend on him. You don't want to give him his rightful position in the marriage so that he can be the leader that he's supposed to be. Because our mothers have told us, don't depend on him. But so Bishop and I talked about it last night, and I said, well, we don't even realize as young women, young girls growing up, that our mothers are only telling us things based out of their own relationship that they had. And so they built up this thing for themselves to tell you, don't do this, and don't depend on me, and don't do this, and don't do that. And if you find yourself with these barriers in your mind that men are this, and men are no good, and you can't trust them, and don't depend on them financially. Make sure you have your own money. Make sure you can have your own car, and all this kind of stuff. And it becomes a barrier between you and your mate. When you're dating, if you go in there with this attitude like, hey, I can take you or leave you, well, most of the time the guy gonna leave you. Because he don't want a woman who's gonna be challenging him on what his manhood is about. And that's what so I learned from my own life experiences. And I used to get in trouble like this. I used to always say, let me make my mistakes. I used to always tell my mother and my grandmother, because I was raised by my mother and grandmother, and I would say, let me make my mistakes. I can learn from my mistakes. But if you never make them, you can't learn from them. But you got a lot of us out there, we're making the same mistakes over and over and over again. We're finding the same kind of guy, just a different face, just a different attitude. Everything is, only thing is different is that he looks different. But the same attributes, the same mindset, the same attitude, everything about him is the same of that previous relationship. And so I want to put this out to you, single men, because I read this thing about the barriers that you have as a single woman that you bring into a relationship that can destroy it before it even get off the ground. And so I'm going to pose this scenario to you all. Now, I'm not going to do all the talking. You all are going to start talking back to the bishop and talking to people. You all start talking with us. We shouldn't have to stand and do all the talking, and you all just taking it in, but we don't even know how you feel. We have no idea what your mindset is. We have no idea what you're going through, because a lot of women are very secretive. We're very secretive. We don't want nobody to know we have a problem. We don't want nobody to know that things just ain't going right. We don't want nobody to know, well, I really haven't been on a date in about 5 years. We don't want nobody to know that. So we keep everything on the inside, and that's another barrier that women do. We hold on to things. And so we got to try to get over those barriers, break those barriers, and build bridges to get over it. So we're talking about barriers and bridges today, okay? Okay. So, single ladies, let me give you a scenario, and I want to hear your feedback. You're hanging out with your mate, somebody you're really interested in, you've been seeing each other, you've been going out, whatever, and you ask him, can I use your computer real quickly? And he goes, yeah, go right ahead. So you open up his computer, and you go on it, and there's an email open. Now you have a choice. You can either look at that email, or you can move on to something else. And so you decide to open it because it's there. You decide to read it because he didn't close it. And it says, oh, I really miss you. Now this is somebody you're dating. Oh, I really miss you. Can't wait till we see each other again. XOXOXO. Now, as a single woman that's dating a guy, and you get on his system, whether it be his cell phone or his computer, you get on there and you see that kind of message. What is in your mind? How are you going to react? Are you gonna take that computer and smash it against the wall?
No.
Are you gonna take a cell phone and throw it at him?
No, I'm gonna ask him.
So what are you gonna do when you find that type of thing? I want some feedback.
I would ask questions.
You're gonna ask questions. Faith? Yeah, you're in a commitment. You're going out with each other.
Yeah, but are you committed to this person?
You're going out. Okay. You can feed into anything you want. You can say, well, if I ain't committed to him, it don't matter. Yeah, it does. To you as a woman, whether you committed to him or not, if you see a message on that phone saying, I miss you, can't wait to see you again, don't tell me that's not going to bother you. If you say it's not, then there's something really wrong. Because I think the average woman would be like, wait a minute here. I thought it was just me and you.
Yeah.
Who is this talking about they miss you?
Right. First you need to know who it is.
Yeah, first you got to ask who it is.
The system.
You know, before you jump to your conclusions, because at the end, everybody knows what XOXO means, okay? So you want to know, who is this? I thought we were in a relationship, just you and I. So who is this? And why is she emailing you, telling you that she missed you? Or it could be vice versa. It could be a man texting emailing a woman telling her he missed her. Can't wait to see her again. See that when people have to realize that pendulum swings both ways. It could be a man or it could be a woman. So what we have to do is, I want you all to think about that. How would you really feel that here you are dating this guy or you're dating